The sun hung heavy over Lagos, a burning coin in a hazy sky. Heat shimmered above the asphalt, and the city pulsed with its usual chaos, hawkers calling out prices of roasted corn, bus conductors banging on rusty doors, horns blaring in endless impatience. Dust swirled with each passing danfo, rising like ghostly smoke before settling again on cracked sidewalks. Amid this orchestra of survival stood Ifeoma. Her hands gripped the long handle of a straw broom, its bristles worn and frayed, dragging across the road in determined strokes. She moved slowly, not from laziness but from exhaustion. Sweat rolled down her face, clinging to the edges of a wrapper that had long since lost its color. At her feet lay small piles of wrappers, leaves, and plastic bottles. She pushed them together again and again, only for the wind to scatter them as if mocking her effort. It was a battle she never truly won, but one she had to fight. Work meant a little pay. A little pay meant, perhaps, bread tonight. Beside her sat her daughter, Adiz, barely 8 years old. She clutched a tattered exercise book, flipping through pages more blank than filled, her pencil stub pressed into the margin as if pretending to study could keep her hunger at bay. Her thin arms hugged the book like a treasure. A few steps away, Chitty, her younger brother of 6, chased a deflated ball that bounced weakly on the pavement. He laughed once, but the sound faded quickly when his stomach growled. Hunger was not a stranger to them, it was a constant companion. Ifeoma's broom scratched the ground in rhythm with her thoughts. She had not eaten since yesterday morning. The children had shared a small loaf of bread, tearing it carefully, pretending it was enough. She lied to them, saying she was full, when in truth her belly burned with emptiness. Ifeoma's broom scratched the ground in rhythm with her thoughts. She had not eaten since yesterday morning. The children had shared a small loaf of bread, tearing it carefully, pretending it was enough. She lied to them, saying she was full, when in truth her belly burned with emptiness. Her daughter watched quietly, her young mind already calculating the cruel arithmetic of poverty, how school dreams shrink when fees are unpaid, how hunger grows when food is scarce. Her son kicked his tired ball, his innocence shielding him from realities his mother carried on her back. The day seemed ordinary, the same as yesterday, the same as tomorrow. But destiny often arrives unannounced. On that very road, from a distance, the low hum of engines rose above the market noise. A convoy of black SUVs, polished to a mirror shine, rolled slowly into the street. Their tinted windows reflected the world like dark shields. Pedestrians turned to look. Some whispered. Others stepped aside, recognizing power when they saw it. Ifeoma barely noticed at first. She swept, bent low, her mind counting how many more hours until she could rest her aching body. But the convoy was slowing. The lead SUV approached the very spot where she bent over her broom. And behind those tinted windows sat a man whose eyes had seen dust before, a man whose memory still carried hunger. The road, the broom, the children, the scene pressed against his heart. And in that moment, fate began to turn. Inside the lead SUV, Adila Balogun sat in silence. Africa knew him as a billionaire industrialist, a man of steel and glass who built empires from the ground up. Yet at this moment, his eyes were not on contracts or boardrooms. They were fixed outside the window, on a woman with a broom, and 2 children too thin for their age. His chest tightened. For a second, the tinted glass did not show Lagos streets. It showed memory. He was a boy again. Sweeping dusty alleys for coins. His belly hollow. His father sick. His mother whispering prayers over pots that held nothing but water. And just like that, the billionaire was no longer looking at a stranger. He was looking at himself, years ago. The convoy rolled closer. Drivers honked behind, irritated at the slow pace, but Adila didn't care. His driver glanced back nervously. "Sir, should we speed up? This area is not safe." Adila's voice was calm but firm as steel. "No. Stop the car." The driver hesitated, unsure. The bodyguards exchanged quick, uneasy looks. Stopping here was against protocol. But Adialu's eyes never left the woman. Sir, the driver tried again. Adialu's gaze hardened. I said, stop. The tires screeched slightly as the convoy slowed to a halt. Pedestrians froze, whispering. Why was the richest man in Lagos stopping here, in the dust? The moment the convoy halted, the street shifted. Hawkers paused mid-shout. A bus conductor leaned out of his door, confused. Mothers tugged their children closer, whispering, who is that? Everyone knew what such black SUVs meant. Power. Wealth. Untouchable men who never breathed the same air as the poor. The rear door of the lead vehicle opened. A polished shoe touched the ground, followed by a tall figure in a navy suit. Adielu Balogun, the man whose signature could change economies, was stepping into dust. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Security men fanned out instantly, scanning the area. One leaned close. Sir, please, it's not safe here. Adielu ignored him. His eyes locked on Ifeoma. Good morning, madam. For the first time in her life, a billionaire had spoken directly to her. What could a man with billions in his hands possibly want, with a woman holding a broom? For a moment, Ifeoma couldn't answer. She stared at the tall man in the spotless suit, wondering if he was mocking her. Good morning, sir, she whispered, her voice shaking. Adielu's eyes softened. He looked at her broom, then at her children. You work hard, he said quietly. Tell me, how much do they pay you for this? Her lips trembled. To speak the truth felt like peeling back her shame. 500 naira, sometimes less, if they say the street is already clean. Adielu's jaw tightened. 500. Less than a loaf of bread in some parts of the city. He turned his gaze to the children. Adiz lowered her eyes shyly, clutching her torn book. Chidi pressed the half-flat ball to his chest. Do you eat well? Adielu asked softly. Ifeoma opened her mouth, but no words came. She wouldn't beg. She wouldn't expose her children like that. But children carry innocence that doesn't know how to hide. Adiz whispered, barely audible, we didn't eat yesterday. The words hit Adielu like a blade. His chest burned with the memory of his own hunger, the shame of empty nights. He felt the ache of a boy he once was, forgotten, overlooked, invisible. Slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Get me the district supervisor, he told his assistant. His voice was calm, but beneath it lay thunder. The crowd stirred. Ifeoma's hands tightened around her broom. What was this powerful man about to do, for a woman nobody else even noticed? Within minutes, a sweating man in an ill-fitting shirt stumbled through the crowd. His tie hung loose, his face glistened with fear. The district supervisor had arrived. He bowed clumsily, stammering, "Yes, sir. I wasn't told you were coming." Adielu's sharp gaze pierced him. How long has this woman worked for you? The supervisor swallowed. Months, sir. She is one of our casual workers. And how much do you pay her? Adielu's voice was low, but each word carried the weight of command. The man shifted nervously. We give them what the budget allows. You know, government contracts, it is. Silence. Adielu's voice cut through the air like a blade. The street fell utterly still. Even the honking buses seemed muted, as if the city itself feared to interrupt. He stepped closer, his shadow falling over the trembling supervisor. You pay her 500 naira. 4 hours of sweeping in the sun, with her children by her side. Tell me, can 500 naira feed a family? The man's lips quivered but no words came. Behind Adielu, whispers rippled through the crowd. Ordinary people watching, stunned. Some held their breath. Others nodded, eyes burning with recognition. They knew this truth too well. Adielu looked back at Ifeoma. She stood silent, clutching her broom, her children pressed against her legs. Then he turned once more to the supervisor. His voice rose, not angry, but thunderous with authority. From this moment, her life changes. The supervisor blinked, confused. The crowd leaned in. And with his next words, Adila Balogun would shake the entire street. Adila's words rang out, steady and commanding. From today, this woman is no longer a street sweeper. Gasps echoed through the crowd. The supervisor's knees nearly buckled. Adila pointed at Ifeoma. She is now an employee of the Balogun Foundation. She will earn a full salary with benefits. And her children, his voice softened, will receive scholarships. From primary school to university. The silence that followed was electric. Ifeoma's broom slipped from her trembling hands, clattering against the ground. Her eyes widened as if her ears had deceived her. Tears welled and spilled freely down her cheeks. She shook her head slowly. Sir. I don't understand. Little Chitty tugged at his mother's wrapper. Mama, is it true? Adila knelt slightly, bringing his tall frame down to the boy's eye level. He placed a gentle hand on Chitty's shoulder. Yes, little one. It is true. You will never go hungry again. The boy's eyes shone with wonder. Adiz dropped her book and clung to her mother, sobbing. The crowd erupted, some cheering, some crying, many simply stunned that such a thing could happen on an ordinary street. The supervisor bowed deeply, stammering promises to update the records immediately. But no one was listening to him. All eyes were on the billionaire, who had knelt in the dust to lift a forgotten family. Yet none of them knew, this was only the beginning of a far greater story. That same evening, Ifeoma's world transformed. A car from the Balogun Foundation arrived, its leather seats strange beneath her tired body. Her children clung to her hands as if afraid it was a dream that would vanish if they let go. When they reached their new home, Ifeoma stood frozen at the doorway. The apartment smelled of fresh paint and clean linen. Inside, a dining table gleamed with plates of steaming rice, meat, fruits piled high like treasure. Adiz gasped and pressed her palms together. Mama, food. Chitty ran straight to the bed, bouncing on the soft mattress before collapsing in laughter. It feels like cloud, he shouted. For the first time in years, Ifeoma let herself weep openly, tears of relief instead of despair. That night they ate until their bellies ached not from hunger but from fullness. Then they slept, not on the cold floor, but on real beds with warm blankets. Days later, Adilu visited. He found Ifeoma practicing her English with a borrowed notebook. He saw Adiz devouring storybooks, eyes alive with dreams of becoming a doctor. And Chitty, sprawled on the floor, sketched little houses with broken crayons. Sir, Ifeoma whispered, kneeling as gratitude overflowed. But Adilu gently raised her to her feet. Don't kneel for me. Use your strength for your children, not for bowing. His words struck her heart like a vow. And soon, the world beyond that small apartment would hear of the street sweeper whose destiny was rewritten. News travels fast in Lagos. What began as whispers on a dusty street soon roared across the city. The billionaire who stopped for a street sweeper, every newspaper carried the headline. Radio hosts debated it, market women retold it, bus conductors shouted it between routes. Some called Adilu a saint. Others accused him of playing politics. But no one could deny the truth, one forgotten woman's life had changed before their eyes. Ifeoma herself struggled to believe it. Each morning she woke expecting to find herself back on the street, broom in hand. But instead, her children dressed in crisp uniforms, their bellies full. They left for school smiling. At the Balogun Foundation office, staff whispered about the new hire. Some doubted her. A cleaner? What can she offer? But when Ifeoma entered, she bowed politely, her eyes fierce with determination. She was no longer sweeping dust, she was learning skills, typing letters, attending training programs. Yet, as her life rose, the eyes of envy sharpened. The corrupt district supervisor, humiliated on the street, muttered darkly among his friends. "One woman cannot embarrass me and walk away clean," he hissed. His pride had been wounded, and pride is a dangerous enemy. But Ifeoma didn't know this yet. She sat at her desk, hands trembling on the keyboard, whispering to herself, "I will not waste this chance." But while she was building her future, forces were already gathering, to pull her back into the dust. Late one evening, when the foundation offices had emptied and Lagos traffic still roared outside, a man sat in a dimly lit bar, his face sour with drink. It was the district supervisor. The humiliation he suffered on the street replayed in his mind like a curse. People laughed at him now. Colleagues whispered. The great billionaire had reduced him to a fool in front of the whole neighborhood. He slammed his glass on the table. All because of that woman with a broom, he spat. That street rat. A friend leaned closer, lowering his voice. Forget her. She is protected now. Touch her, and you touch Balogun himself. But pride burns hotter than reason. The supervisor's eyes narrowed. No. I will remind her where she came from. She will return to dust. He began to plan, quietly, carefully. Old contacts in the local council, a forged paper here, a whispered rumor there. He didn't need to harm her directly. He only needed to twist the system until she broke under its weight. Meanwhile, Ifeoma had no idea. Each morning, she held her children's hands as they left for school. She poured her energy into her training, writing reports with shaky fingers but determined eyes. She believed her battles were behind her. But battles rarely end. They only change shape. And somewhere in the shadows, a storm was gathering. What Ifeoma didn't know was that her greatest test was yet to come, and this time, hunger would not be her only enemy. The storm broke quietly. One morning, as Ifeoma arrived at the foundation office, two stern men from the council were waiting. They carried folders thick with papers, their tone sharp. "You are under investigation," one of them announced. "Forgery. Fraud. It seems your employment papers are not in order." Ifeoma's heart dropped. "Forgery? I cannot even read half the words in those papers." "Please, sir." But they cut her off. "Until this is resolved, you are suspended." The whispers began instantly. Staff exchanged glances, some shaking their heads. Had the street sweeper lied? Was she truly worthy of this chance? At home that evening, Adiz clutched her mother's hand. "Mama, will they send me out of school?" Chitty's eyes brimmed with tears. Ifeoma pulled them close, though inside her spirit cracked. "No, my children. We will not go back to the street. We will stand." But in the silence of night, she wept, praying for strength. Far away, in a high-rise office, Adil Balogun received the news. His face darkened. He knew corruption when he smelled it. He called for an investigation, his network moving faster than the shadows dared. Within days, the truth surfaced. The district supervisor had forged documents, planting false evidence to ruin Ifeoma. His scheme was exposed in front of cameras. Adil summoned Ifeoma to the foundation hall. The same crowd that once doubted her now gathered, watching. He stood tall, his voice resonating across the room. "This woman was accused, but the truth has prevailed. She is not guilty. She is a symbol of strength. From today, she will not only remain with the foundation, she will lead our new program to help widows and mothers across Lagos." Gasps. Applause. Ifeoma's knees weakened, but this time she did not fall. She stood tall, tears shining, her children holding her hands. The supervisor was led away in disgrace. The same dust he once scorned swallowed his footsteps. That night, Ifeoma sat in her new office. She ran her hands across the polished desk, then looked at her children laughing in the hallway. Her voice trembled with awe. From Broome to this. God, you lifted me. And Adielu, watching from the doorway, smiled faintly. He remembered his own journey, the alleys he once swept. In Ifeoma, he saw not charity, but destiny fulfilled. The city buzzed with the story. A street sweeper turned leader. A billionaire who remembered the dust. And whispers began to spread, if it happened for her, maybe it can happen for us too. And so, on a forgotten street of Lagos, history was written. A woman once invisible had become a beacon. But the greater question remained, how many more Ifeomas still waited in the dust, unseen, praying for their dawn? If this story touched your heart, don't let it end here. Share it with someone who needs hope today. And if you want more powerful stories like this, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon, so you never miss the next journey of faith, struggle, and triumph. Because sometimes, the next story could be yours.